Hello, I'm Ethan Chase, and a New York-based organization development coach, and I'm really excited for today's training and development video. This is on the different styles of leadership. And, it's fascinating to me in my capacity as an executive coach, as a business growth consultant, when I talk to people about this idea of leadership, as if there's this one universal, only style of leadership, that leadership only encompasses a certain finite set of behavioral styles, preferred communication, individual characteristics. The truth of the matter is, leadership exists in many different forms, in many different ways in which people literally, if you think about the word leader, they get other people to follow them. So I want to talk about, first of all, the distinction, right, between leading and managing. A lot of times, people that I coach, organizations I consult with, they throw around the terms as if they're interdependent or they're synonymous. Leading and managing, they're not. Let me be very clear about this. They're actually two entirely different sets of discipline. Management, whether you're talking about the Latin derivation of the word mano agere, which means literally take by the hand, or management, which is French, it's managing is a very specific set of skills and outcomes. Managing is about controlling people as if they are assets. That's really the extent of it. It's manipulating people, which is a resource, in order for the organization to derive optimal result out of utilization of that asset, meaning an employee. And that's needed to a certain regard, but it strips out the fundamental essence of what we look for in leaders. Okay, so they're not synonymous. That's management. Leadership, especially as I train and coach and consult it for success in the 21st century, leadership is fundamentally different, right? Leadership is about, as an individual, having a vision about where you as a person are going, where you want your organization to go, and therefore where you want to lead other people to follow you. It's about building consensus with other people. Look, we all know the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's leadership. Leadership is guiding and inspiring others. It's along the lines of, if I wish to see farther, I must stand on the shoulders of giants. Meaning the position of leadership in any capacity is it's a position of authority, but ultimately the success that you and your organization achieve are through the people that you're lucky enough to lead. It's the ability to get amazing people to follow you. It's about behaviors. That's the distinction between leadership and managing. Managing is 20th century. It's built on that post-industrial command control pyramid organizational structure that has layers and layers of bureaucracy and hierarchy, which, by the way, has no place in the 21st century flat matrix organization. Leadership is fundamentally different. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about in today's video, is the distinction between leading and managing. So now let's go a little bit into what are the different kinds of leadership, right? So first, I want to frame this, as I said before, in my distinction between managing and leading. Managing and managers are people who do things the right way. Leaders are people who do the right thing. So I'm going to build on that for purposes of providing you with a roadmap of the different styles of leadership. Understand that there are quite a few. There are no right, there are no wrong in and of themselves. The individual leader, the organization, where the organization is in its organic life cycle, the people in the organization, other external factors and environmental considerations, they all play a role. But understand that leadership, the different styles of leadership, are akin to the different kinds of personalities that are out there, because leaders are human beings. And that's what I want to share with you in today's video. So I'm going to talk you through the first 5 styles. The first is what we call the autocratic leader. There is no democratic or participative engagement. You follow because they lead. They have complete control, complete decision-making. You want a place in their organization, you fall lockstep in line with the direction that they're going. There's only one voice, and that's the autocrats. There's no room for dissension. There's no room for other idea sharing or discussion. There's no oppositional viewpoint. It's one groupthink consensus way to go forward following the autocrat. It is what it is. The second is what we refer to as bureaucratic leadership, and that's heavily dependent on standardized processes, procedures, operations. If you think about NASA, the space exploration, you think about building an airplane, there's definitely benefit to be gained from standardization and a set way of doing things. You know, chaos, uncertainty, change is not welcomed in the bureaucrat or bureaucratic leader's way of thinking. A bureaucratic leader is, this is the way we've done it. This is the way we've proven it works. We don't deviate. When somebody asks why or what if, it creates angst in the bureaucratic leader. The way forward is the established patterns of routine and past performance. Charismatic leader. They are literally, if you think about it, people congregate to the charismatic leader as if they're moths drawn to a flame. You know the charismatic leader when he or she or they walk in a room. People congregate to them. They have phenomenally convincing, powerful personalities. They can be narcissists or sociopaths, in fact, but charismatic leaders are capable of getting other people just through the sheer force of their personality and the animal magnetism, the appeal of who they are, drawn to them, to follow them. That's the third. The next is what we call the democratic or participative leader. They need consensus. They need discussion. They need everybody on board. They understand that it may take longer to reach a decision. They understand that there may be more conflict and more conversation, more oppositional viewpoint. They welcome it. They want to hear everybody's voice. Everybody has a say, and they don't feel comfortable making a decision by themselves that everybody has to fall lockstep behind. They want to gather consensus. In fact, dare I say, they not just want, a democratic participative leader needs to have everybody on board. And the benefit of that as an option or a kind of leadership style is that everybody's voices matter. Everybody has an opportunity to provide ideas and participate in the process, whether you're an extrovert and you feel comfortable chiming in and speaking out, or introverted. They'll solicit your ideas, if not verbally, in writing. So that's the fourth style of leadership. The fifth is what I call transformational, and these are generational. These are people who are able to see out into the future. They stylistically, they are visionaries. They can see where no one has gone before. They can read the tea leaves. They can see the future. They transform and change, not just themselves. They're adaptive. They change everybody and everything around them. They transform the organizations that they're engaged in, or they go out and transform industries and have impact on society. They're once in generation kind of individuals. They are, for lack of a more eloquent way of putting it, they are the people who drive society forward. They impact everybody and everything around them. And when I talk about leadership, I am typically, please, just so you know, when and if we have an opportunity to speak, if you reach out to me, we can talk through these different styles and which fits best you or your leadership team members. Transformational leadership to me is the ultimate goal of all of these styles, regardless of which your preferred behavior and communication is, which lends itself to one of these styles. I'm always looking for people who are transformational leaders. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the 11 styles. Style number 6 is what we call laissez-faire from the French, or left to their own devices, delegative. A laissez-faire style of leadership, to me, is less of leadership and more about management. It's giving people the autonomy or enough rope to hang themselves. Laissez-faire is hands-off. It sounds like this when you engage them. with an idea or a suggestion, that's fine. You go ahead. I won't get in your way. I want you to have the opportunity to feel as if you're independent. You can go take that initiative. But a laissez-faire delegative individual is the one who you may hear the phrase most often attributed to this style, throwing other people under the bus when things don't work out, when there's harm from a decision that's reached, when it's the wrong decision or a missed opportunity. They're the kinds of people who say, well, you know what? You came to me and I didn't want to stop you because you were so hell-bent on moving forward, but I knew it wouldn't work. So laissez-faire delegative styles are conflict avoidant. They tend to allow other people around them to have autonomy or independence, but they're not supportive. When you ever hear the phrase, I've got your back, that certainly doesn't apply to a delegative or laissez-faire style of, call it leadership, I call it management. And then there's the humanistic approach, what's often referred to as a people or relations oriented. These are extroverts. These are people who, if you've ever taken a Myers-Briggs or a DISC personality style, they're the ones who are verbally loquacious. They communicate verbally. They need to have other people around them. One of the worst things you can do to a people relations oriented leader is to stick them in a cubicle in a corner. They need the human interaction. They need to be out there. Decades ago, we called it MBWA. Management by walking around. These are leaders who need they are socially extroverted and they need the stimulation, the interaction. They need to have other people around them. So it's a very particular human engagement style. Then we call the servant leader, style number 8. The servant leader is all about public service. You can identify them from the kinds of activities they pursue and the way they engage societally. They're active in their local community organizations. They volunteer. If they were growing up, they may have been an Eagle Scout. They may participate in fundraising drives. They need to be of value. Their sense of self-worth is equated with or patterned after service of others. They're the ones who make great coaches and mentors. They're the ones in any organizations who volunteer. They start an employee resource group, or maybe they start an employee career and professional development program. They gravitate to certain functional areas such as human resources or customer care. Again, they're all about being in the service of others. It's not inner directed. Their style of leadership is externally driven. Then there's what we call task oriented. The task-oriented individual feels comfortable in her or his or their spreadsheets, their project management plans. They're very linear. They may have, a notepad. You can't really see it, but you have a notepad of daily to-dos and weekly to-dos, and you're very focused on what's in front of you. You believe in the Stephen Covey prioritization scheme. You have things that you hold yourself accountable to. You like lists. These are the kinds of attributes of task-oriented leaders. They're fundamentally driven towards completion of tasks. When they can check off tasks or move tasks that are not completed, they forward move it to another day. That's when they feel most comfortable. And transactional may sound like task-oriented, but it's not. Transactional, if you think of it as a little easier to remember, transactional leadership style is operations-based. These are COO types, chief operations officers. They want to make sure all of the components of the organization are functioning full steam ahead. Whether they have back office systems, they have middleware, they have client-facing systems, all the pieces of the organization are interlocked and operating at optimal efficiency. They're great for quality control. Transactional leaders want to make sure that the day in, day out operations or transactions of an organization are well served. So they're all about operational efficiency. So when you think about leadership, when you think about the 3 levers that pull an organization forward, when you think about leadership or people, when you think about operations or strategy, transactional leaders feel much more comfortable in an operational mode. Here's the 11th. And I distinguish it, I put it out on its own because I know in my 20 years in corporate America and 15 years as an organizational growth coach that the 11th, the ethical model, or what we call probity, and I'll talk through each of the 4 Ps, is the most 21st century ready style of leadership. And I'll talk to you about the 4 Ps. Organizations possess probity or ethical leaders who have a sense of purpose. These are individuals who are constantly asking of themselves, of the people they work with, and the organizations that are lucky enough to have them, what's our legacy? As a result of what we're doing here in our time together, what do we want to pass off to future generations? Or what do we want to have as a positive impact for the stakeholders, the group of individuals that we engage with? The sense of purpose. Next up, the next P is planet. There is a necessary consideration in ethical leadership styles of the impact on the planet. You see it with Yvon Chouinard, founder of Patagonia. You see the desire to be environmentally aware of what there are certain buzzwords that come around this, conscious capitalism, or planet focus. But that's what that second P is. It's the notion of it's tied with purpose and legacy, but from an impact from a lasting environmental consideration. The next is people. People. In the ethical model, and when I coach and consult with organizations to build or transform their cultures, the first consensus that we get to is what's the impact from a people perspective. In the 20th century flat matrix organization, world-class leaders, world-class organizations are focused fundamentally on how do we unleash the untapped potential of our people. Why are people most important? Going back to something I just said, there's 3 levers you can pull as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who started their own business, a CEO, in a C-suite, as a leader. There's only one of 3 levers you can pull for lasting competitive advantage in the 21st century. There's no way around this. The first is strategy, right? You develop your strategy every year. You have your annual strategic plan. And on January 1, it's like Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. On January 1, your strategy is going to have to deal with and overcome the very real practical considerations of things that go on in business, in the environment, in the communities you live and work in. And those changes will alter your strategy or make them even obsolete, your strategy. So strategy is a blueprint, right? But it has to adapt. The second lever you pull is your operations. And, and I mentioned that before, transactional leadership details that. But your operational efficiency is only going to take you so far. Look, everybody right now, if you go to networking groups, everybody has an EOS implementer or integrator. Everybody has a CRM. We're all operating. Everybody understands how go look at ChatGPT and write your paper or do research or find competitors. Everybody has that baseline operational efficiency, those tools at their disposal. Your people are your only lasting competitive advantage. You can be successful as an organization, even with a really, really lousy strategy, if you have amazing people. And if you have subpar operations or you have disconnects or disjoints in your operational efficiency, an amazing organization of people will still be able to rectify those disconnects operationally speaking because they know how to overcome them. So that's the third P. And the last is a fancy word called probity, which is just, it's a moral compass. That's what probity is having a set of moral values, a code of conduct, a code of principles. Listen, when I work with organizations and they say, oh, we have our values, go to our website. That's aspirational. That's wonderful that you took the time to create a sense of code of conduct, of core values. But to what extent every day are your people living them in their performance, in their behaviors, in their interactions? Moral compass is the way your people act every day. And here's the kicker. Probity or people operating with morality. That's what culture is. Culture is the collective behaviors that your employees exhibit day in, day out. So my question for you, and I really appreciate you coming in and taking a little bit of time to kind of hear me talk about the different aspects of leadership and the distinction between leading and managing. Who are you? Remember, I said earlier, there's no right or wrong style. The style of leadership fits inside of you based on yourself. And I would suggest, if you haven't done this, take the time. Have somebody like me who is DISC certified come in and do a personality assessment for you and your leadership team. But where are you in terms of when you look at the grid, where are you in terms of x-axis, in terms of your behaviors? Are you a transactional, you're focused on operational efficiency, or are you on the other end of the spectrum, you're more transformational? Do you care about changing the world for the better? And in terms of your interactions with other people, and that's the y-axis, which end of the spectrum are you? Are you all the way on the autocrat, my way or the highway? We got to do it the way I say. There's no dissension. Or are you more along the lines of the democratic participative? So where are you? And that's driven in a very real regard by your style of communication, your personality, your background, who you are, that whole nature nurture thing. But where are you in terms of these two sets of consideration? So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to come in and listen to a little bit about my viewpoint, my perspective, my observations, spent over 35 years. And if you like the video, please be sure to subscribe, share this, like it, give me comments. I'd love to know what you think. And again, by subscribing, you really help support the work that I'm doing here on my YouTube channel. Go into my other playlists, especially the Chasing the Dream podcast, where you'll see I interview other people in terms of their background, experience, beliefs about leadership, and how they're creating amazing leadership in their organizations. Thank you. Don't forget, let's go chasing the dream.